Welcome back to Project Freelance. This is season 6. My name is Kay Anagonio, and I am your host on this podcast. What is up, guys? Hope you're doing well. This week on the podcast, I am joined by Brianna Lynn, a photographer and graphic designer out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hey, there is an abandoned prison in Pittsburgh that I got to explore. It is called Eastern State Penitentiary, and I have photos of it in my book, No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. If you want a copy of it, go to justtheletterk.com/no tracers. But that's not what this is about. This is about Brianna. All right, so I have this art showcase, right? And Brianna reached out to me and was like, hey, I've done one of those showcases with the same company. You're going to have a great time. And I was like, hey, excuse me. Hi, Brianna. Nice to meet you. I would like you to come on my podcast to tell me what I need to know about this showcase because it's happening. And I've never done one of these before. So I asked Brianna for her tips and tricks for this showcase. And I'm super excited for you guys to hear this episode. Let's jump right into it. Please introduce yourself and what it is you do to the Project Freelance audience.
My name is Brianna Lynn, and my business name is Blynncreative. And my occupation by day, I'm a graphic designer. By night and any other time, really, I'm a photographer, freelance. So my life is all about art. I do graphic design for a theater company during the day. Sometimes it includes photography, but often includes poster design, playbill design, promo material, t-shirts, all that good stuff. And then I do lots of photography. I do headshots for theater. I do promo shoots for shows. And my favorite type of photography is light painting and abstract photography. So I kind of do it all.
Okay, so lots of places I want to go. I'm taking notes as you're talking so that I don't forget anything.
Awesome.
So first of all, how did you get, what do you do more of, or what did you do first? Did you do graphic design or did you do photography first?
I started doing photography first, I think. I kind of started when I was a teenager and I had like a little point and shoot camera. And it was something I always loved doing in my free time. I would like run around the backyard and take pictures of flowers and stuff. And then I'd start taking it with me places like air shows and car cruises and concerts. So, well, concerts are a little iffy, challenging sometimes with the rights and stuff. But anywhere I could, and I'd take pictures of anything and everything, and I always loved it. And then when I was starting to go to college, I said I wanted to go for photography, and everyone was pushing me to something that was a bit more practical and, reliable to get a good job. And I started going to school for cyber forensics and information security, which is like nothing like the things I told you. So I did that for 3 years, and then I just was like, this isn't for me. I don't like this. And I found myself in the art department talking to the graphic design teachers, and I changed my major. So I didn't start really with the graphic design stuff till I was in college, even though I had dabbled enough in Photoshop to know about it. But I didn't really do it professionally or even think about that until college age. So photography first, then graphic design, and then the two handshake really well. So now I kind of do both, and the worlds intertwine with each other.
So when it comes to like doing graphic design in college, what sparked your interest in that? Was it like something that you had started doing more of, or were you just like, I need to do something else, and that just came into your life?
It was more of the second thing. It just kind of came into my life. It became the practical, I want to do art for the rest of my life, but this could lead to a really needed and practical and fun job.
For sure. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So as far as like learning and going to school for it, one of my questions is, do you think it's necessary to study this in college or in high school or wherever? So can you just talk a little bit about that, your opinion on school versus not going to school or being self-taught?
Sure. I definitely think by today's standards, you need a degree to get a job. I don't think that you actually need to go to school to be a good designer, however, because a lot of things I taught myself when I was 15 and had, a bootleg copy of Photoshop on my computer, and I just dabbled and watched YouTube videos. And there's so many resources out there if you're willing to learn, and you can watch YouTube videos on how to do this, how to do that, meet the professionals, meet the creatives, and people tell you what the real world experience is going to be like. And some of it seems to be pretty true to the real deal, and when I was in college, I learned a lot, but I also learned a lot of foundation art skills, drawing and storyboarding, and those things are important, but I don't think it makes or breaks a great designer, which many teachers I'm sure would disagree with me on, but I think you can learn a lot by yourself and reaching out to resources on your own.
And who were some of your inspirations back then when you were first, teaching yourself and learning in school? Who did you like look up to? Whose work did you like?
I don't even know of anyone in particular, and that probably sounds really strange, but I spent a lot of time crawling the corners of DeviantArt when that was a thing back in the day, like Instagram. So I go to the homepage of DeviantArt and I saw this really cool stuff people make, the most popular of the day, the deviants of the day, daily deviants, I think they were called or something. And I just saw the things people were making and I was blown away. I was like, there's a whole digital art world out there that's amazing. So I think what attracted me to graphic design in the first place was more the photo manipulation side of it, like the digital paintings and those kind of things. And then I realized that there's sort of a less artistic, more scientific and technical approach to it, which was more on the graphic design side. So it was like early in that, looking at those kind of artists that existed on the web, and then Instagram started to become a thing, and there's a lot of people on there, but
yeah. When did you start freelancing?
Probably when I was in college, freelancing officially. So that'd be like 2016 or 17. I started talking to people personally and saying, "Oh, I do photography. Oh, I do graphic design. I can make that for you. I can do this and that." And I have a small, group of friends and stuff that started to spread the word. And I have enough people that sort of were interested in photo shoots and posters or business cards, especially when I started making friends in college that were graphic designers or were some other major and wanted to have business cards made. I was like, "Hey, I can help you out with that." So.
Yeah, business cards are a really good way to go as far as like graphic design work goes because everybody needs one.
Right.
So when you started freelancing, do you remember your first job, like the first thing you made?
My first job. I don't think so, because it's always just been people just know to ask me, "Oh, you can make stuff. Can you make me this image? Can you make me this promotional thing? Hey, my science club is having a meeting. Can you make that?" My first official thing, I do remember writing my first invoice, but I can't remember what it was for. I was like, this feels very serious. I'm sending my first invoice to my first client.
Yeah, it's always a very big moment for any freelancer to send their first invoice. And
yeah, it felt so official.
right? You're like, okay, I'm a big kid now. Like, we're sending invoices.
I definitely think it was some kind of brochure for like just a friend, though. I'm not even positive on what the assignment was. It was a while ago now.
Definitely. So, how long did it take for you to figure out your value and your worth? Like, how did you figure out your rate for your work?
The funny answer to that is I feel sometimes that I'm still figuring that out every day. I would say within the last 6 months or so, I've tried to nail that down, because that's become a very serious, matter of being consistent across the board with clients. And for a while, like, I was kind of wishy-washy with my friends and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, you're my friend. I'll do it for cheaper or whatever." But now I think my biggest thing is like making sure that I do value myself and putting that price tag on myself and my work, because people come to me because they trust my work and they trust me, and it's worth that. It's worth the price. And so I'd say if I started in 2016 or 17, 18, 19, it's been like 2.5 years, and just of kind of being like, "Hey, what do you charge for this? What do you charge for this? What's the going rate for this? What are the prices you're finding for this?" And I finally kind of got it under somewhat of an understanding. But that's the thing that they don't teach you in school. I mean, talking about if you need an education or not, I wish there was a class that was like how to price yourself 101. That would be really great.
Hey, maybe somebody will hear this podcast and start teaching how to price yourself 101, because I think
that would be really great. I mean, I would take that class for sure.
It should be an online course so that people can take it easier. Maybe I'll figure that out. Maybe we'll do like a Project Freelance situation. That would be cool.
That would be yeah, very cool.
So tell me a little bit about if you've dealt with the feast versus famine concept.
Should I know what the feast versus famine concept is? I probably do.
Okay, so sometimes you have a ton of work, sometimes there's no work, and you feel like your world's falling apart.
Oh, absolutely. Then I do know. Right now, with it being Christmas time, I'm overloaded and I have photos exporting from Lightroom as we speak. So it's very, very busy right now. I'm very lucky. I have a full-time graphic design job, so that really is my main source of income for the famine times. And it gets me through whenever I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if it's going to be a steady income for freelancing this month or not," So I'm very lucky in that way. I know a lot of artists are struggling and really rely on a consistent, steady freelancing income per month. But for me, it's a little bit extra. It's like it's more of the fun money. And I hate saying that to people because it makes what I do sound less professional because they're like, you don't need the money. But I'm like, but it is part of what I factor into, my budget and everything for each year. So I guess I try to keep myself busy. I reach out to people on Twitter recently. I play video games a lot. And I noticed that the gaming industry and the Twitch community is huge now. So a lot of people are after gaming logos. And sometimes I reach out to like these new gamers and I'm like, hey, I do logos starting at X amount. They're not that crazy, expensive. If you want to give me a shot, I'll just throw you some comps and see what you think. And people are really into that. So I look for work when there's not work flying in the door. And when there is work flying in the door, it tends to pile up and I try to do it all at once in one big marathon.
I think that a lot of us can relate to trying to cram everything in. Once you have like a ton of work, you just feel like you can do anything and everything's possible. And then you hit a wall. Have you ever hit the wall? Have you ever crashed and burned and needed to take a step back?
Absolutely. And I think that taking a mental break and a physical break from the computer screen is very important for any creative types because most of what we do is spent on a computer screen and it's easy to get burned out. Sometimes it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, just another 20 minutes and I'll be done. And I'm falling asleep on my desk and it's important to take that break and sometimes push a deadline back if you absolutely have to. I try not to miss deadlines or push deadlines away with my clients, but most of the time they're very understanding. If I'm like, I literally just need one more day, I overbooked myself, and I always credit it to myself. I've overbooked myself because that tends to be what happens during those feast times.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you meet this theater company? Like, tell me about that. How'd you get in touch with them and how did that relationship start?
So that's really interesting because it was my senior year of college. And as a media arts major, it was required that I do an internship. And being that I changed my major so late in the game, I felt a little behind all the time. And I was like, okay, I haven't had an internship yet. I haven't had any bites yet. I am going to be graduating here, but not actually because I have not had an internship. So kudos to my college, even though I just said you don't really maybe need a degree to do what we do. I did meet my person who hired me at a career fair there. So I went to a media arts career fair where there were all these speakers from different companies in the local town and stuff. And they were talking about what they do and what it's like in the professional world. And it was funny. She was just talking at the panel and she said, well, I work for a musical theater company. And someone said, what do you look for when you hire a new person? And she said, well, right now I'm looking for a graphic designer. And she laughed and I latched onto that and talked to her right after that meeting and was like, hey, I'm a graphic designer. I'm looking for an internship. And I ended up getting my foot in the door there. I started as an intern. And then after 6 months or so, when I finished my internship, they hired me. So I'm still there and I really love it. And the cool thing was I never thought to connect the two dots between music and art because I was always a musical kid. Like in high school, I took a bunch of music classes. I played all the instruments. I played like saxophone, steel drums, guitar. And I went to a lot of concerts, marching band, symphonic band, concerts was a tangent. I went to a lot of like shows and concerts and stuff. So music was always important to me. And I connected the two dots there. And now I work with theater and with actors and shows and productions, but I also get to make the art for those. And it was really like a fate situation, I feel like. And I feel very lucky that kind of fell into my hands.
So at the beginning, you said that by day you're a graphic designer, by night you're a photographer. Can you walk me through a day at doing your job?
Sure. So in the daytime, I have a desk and I work there and I do whatever's on my plate for that week or that day. And often it's meeting deadlines and very much a small community office environment where sometimes people are tossing ideas at each other across the room. And it's like, hey, we just got an opportunity to do an advertisement with the newspaper. It's due in 2 days. It's a last minute thing. Let's do it. So I kind of prioritize things and decide what needs done first and put other things. And it's a lot of staying organized and a lot of meeting deadlines and moving deadlines and keeping up with things. And I usually spend 6 to 8 hours doing that. So I guess the full-time gig of looking at a computer and editing photos there as part of the design layouts or coming up with good designs, playing with fonts. Looking up trends a lot is an important part of that too, to see what's catching people's attention nowadays for promoting shows, and as much as TV shows or anything like that goes, seeing what people are interested in. And then when I leave there, sometimes I don't leave there. Sometimes I stay and I've booked a photo shoot with an actor or someone that's just local that needs a new headshot or something. And I shoot headshots. I shoot show promos sometimes after hours. Sometimes I shoot pictures of the rehearsals of the shows that they're working on so I can use those in advertisements and such. And then if I leave there, if I sometimes don't sleep there, if I leave there and come home, I try to book photo shoots with friends or family. I did a fall family photo shoot not super long ago. And what did I do? I have photos from a local kennel that I just did, pictures of dogs with the Grinch. So like I'm always looking for stuff to do and getting my hands in like any place I can really. And so now it's the evening. I did take time to eat dinner, I promise. And I'm working on those Grinch photos with the dogs and I'm exporting those and putting them in their little custom frames. And I'll do that till it's about bedtime and then I'll start again tomorrow, go back to the desk job and see if I have anything else to do after that.
And then do you like take weekends off? Do you schedule time off for yourself, or do you just work like I do?
Well, I do just work. I am most of the time free on Saturdays, but I don't tell people that because I'm like, that's my private day. No, not really. That's my day of rest. I try to go to the gym a lot, but it's sometimes like right now, life has just been hectic. I was traveling a lot. Like a month or so ago, I did my first wedding. Actually, that's a tangent, I suppose, but I did that. So that was some traveling. I went to Hawaii for a personal vacation for a week with my family. And so sometimes that throws everything, but I try to make time to go to the gym at least like 2-3 times a week and take care of myself. Because as I said, sitting at a desk all day is obviously like not healthy. And then driving to and from work is like more sitting. So I try to make time for that. But other than that, I mean, I have a part-time job at that kennel on Sundays. So I work Sundays and then I work Monday through Friday. So if I don't have Saturday booked, that's my day and I try to make time for the gym. So I try, but not always. I overwork myself sometimes.
I think we all do, especially as freelancers. Like I said, it goes back to kind of that feast versus famine. You're afraid. I don't know if you have the anxiety or the fear that, you're not going to have enough work that month or that week or whatever it is. But I think that a lot of people feel that pressure. So back to your internship real quick. Do you think that internships are a good idea? I mean, obviously you do, but can you just talk a little bit about the perks of having an internship?
Sure. I think having an internship was the best part of my college experience, and not because it landed me a job, not because I liked the people, not because of all the things that I could say, but because it gave me the most real experience that I could have for what the field was going to be like. And it's so funny when other people say that, I'm like, oh yeah, internships are great. I get it. I hear that all the time. But until I did one myself, I was like, wow, internships really are great. And I learned so much from this experience because there's only so much you can do in a classroom environment that is going to actually prepare you for the real world. Until you get in that environment where there's actual deadlines and there's actual people firing last minute things at you and there's changes and you have to figure out how the company wants to organize their files or how you want to just make things work on your own time and not according to a teacher's standards is really helpful. Like I would tell anyone, if you have the opportunity to take an internship or do an internship in your field, to absolutely do it, because you will get a taste of what it's going to be like and if you're going to enjoy it and how it's going to work with you.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, I had an internship as a videographer, and it was probably my favorite thing about, studying film at the time. I got real life hands-on experience in the field doing this kind of stuff. So, yeah, I agree. I think internships are a great way to go. So, let's talk about having a website and how your website and social media have impacted your freelancing business.
Sure. So I think I kind of started on Instagram. When I was in college, all of the graphic designers and photographers had an Instagram. And I remember saying, I was like, I'm never getting an Instagram. And then I found myself in that community and was like, well, now I'm getting an Instagram. So I started with an Instagram, the free portfolio kind of thing. And I got addicted to it, right? You start tagging all these pages and liking all these photos, and it becomes like your constant need to fill your free time with liking stuff on Instagram to get more followers. So it definitely drug people to my page and got people to message me or tag me, or I found out about free-for-all contests on there and stuff. And the cool thing about Instagram was that it led me to be discovered by the raw artists, which I know we had messaged about. So they saw my profile and sent me an email, which I get junk emails sometimes from Instagram, right? And I was like, this is another junk email. But I said, this one sounds legit. So I emailed them back and it was a real thing. So I think in a way, it definitely helped me be, should I say, discovered and like found by a community of artists that was interested in what I do. As far as a personal website goes, I built mine, so that was something that I can add to my portfolio that like I coded it and wrote it myself and whatnot. And it's definitely a place that I point people to now, interested clients that are like, can you show me something that you've done before? Or I just think your work is really cool. Where can I see more? Or where can I just contact you through a form? I point them to my website. So it's become a really helpful tool for, say, I don't have a business card, or I don't have an actual portfolio with me. They're basically two different digital portfolios I have.
So let's talk about the raw artists thing, because first of all, I thought it was a spam email too, but then I was like, yeah, this actually seems kind of legit. Let me see what this is all about. And yeah, turns out it's kind of a legit thing. So I want to talk about your experience doing one, because I've never showcased my art before. This will be my first time doing it. And for the listeners, raw artists, they host these art showcases where you can bring photography or any type of artwork that you do, whether it's digital, creative, or otherwise, and you can showcase it, and you can sell prints, you can sell merchandise, whatever you have. And there are, upwards of like 800 to 1,000 people that show up to these things. So tell me what your experience was like and what you showcased at your exhibition.
First of all, congratulations. I'm super excited for you, and I think you're going to have an awesome time. So I had a really good experience with them. I messaged them back and said I was interested, and I set up my profile. And what's really cool is there's like an event coordinator for, I think, your location specifically or your area, and they keep in touch with you when you're going through the process of like going to see the location, that the venue that you're going to be set up at, making sure that you're selling your tickets. Like they touch base with you every couple weeks, and it's cool. They personally call you. So at first I was like, I don't need someone to guide me through this. And then I was like, this is really nice. I do need someone to guide me through this. So they really care about each person that's involved with the show. They want to make sure that you have all the information you need, and they guide you through the process. And I had a good time with the show. I not only met a lot of other artists that were in the show, but like a lot of people came to the show. I felt like I was part of this really cool underground thing. It was at a nightclub venue in Pittsburgh, because that's where I'm from. And it was like you had to buy a ticket to get in, and it just felt very special, right? Everybody just comes like in the evening hours just to see the art, and it was really cool. And everybody gets a small space to set up. I think it's like 6 feet by 6 feet, and some people get the big chain link fence behind them, like I had, like the people who need to hang things, like the photographers. And for my setup, I hung string across the fence, like 2 or 3 rows, and I hung some prints with like little clips up. I think they were like 8 by 10s, maybe a couple of 16 by 20s. And I also had a banner printed with my logo name on it, and hung that up. And then I had my little tablet up front that had like my website and stuff on it for people to see some more. And I had some props that I set out, like I have like a vintage camera. It's actually a bank. People think it's a real camera, but I set that up, and I was like, accepting donations for tattoos here, like just something funny, and people would put little couple bucks in there or something. But there were a lot of different kinds of artists there. There were people that were, photographers, like I mentioned. There were beauticians, there were dancers, there were body painters, there were people that made things out of found materials, like outdoorsy environmental materials. And there were people that sculpted. Some people did some like live, I guess, performances, you'd call it, where they were doing makeup, or they were painting people, or whatever their canvas was. They were painting for the crowd that was coming in to see the show. So that's something to think about, I suppose, is like doing something live to engage your crowd. But it was definitely a really positive experience. The exposure was awesome. Not only did I meet local artists, but I met people that were just like interested in collabing with me. They saw my work, and maybe they were a model, or they just really liked like the light painting photography that I did. And they said, hey, here's my card, give me a call. I'd like to shoot with you. I had someone that told me that she owned like an abandoned warehouse, and asked if I ever wanted to shoot in there. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, I do. So she gave me her business card and sent me on our way. So we had a really good time with that show, everybody. And the positivity there was really something too. Like, everybody was really encouraging of each other and supportive, and it's just a really great community. I'm excited that you're going to be part of it and get to experience it.
Yeah, so let me pick your brain real quick. So they were like, "Yeah, I have a photography book out about the abandoned places that I like to explore." And
Mhm.
so they were like, "You can sell your book at the show." And so I'm wondering, should I get books printed or should I get like little business cards with like a little QR code that says like, "Here, go if you want a book, go get one," so that I like save on that money. Like, do people sell prints there? Like, did you have experience with that?
So I didn't sell anything personally because of the same question you just asked me. I didn't want to pre-print a whole bunch of stuff and have people like not buy it, because then I'm
Right.
like, okay, I have 10 prints of this now, especially
Right.
since a lot of my favorite photos, right? Especially since a lot of my favorite photos I took were like photos of a friend that I know that had like a light painting accent around them. I'm like, nobody's going to want a random photo of a person on their wall that they don't know. So in your case, though, those aren't necessarily photos of people. And if you could spare the money, I mean, I would think it'd be smart maybe to take just a couple with you, and have a couple for sale. And that way people see a physical one there. It's something they could buy and leave with. And from a marketing standpoint, from my other sort of job, I think that people are more inclined to do that than they are to like take something, leave, get home, and be like, oh, I should buy that, you know? But
Totally.
I definitely had a sheet where I took people's information and I said, I contacted them later, like I followed up and I said, hey, I talked to you at the art show. We had a really good time. You left your email. Are there some prints I could get you? Is there anything you're interested in? I pointed them to my website, and I did sell a few things after the fact. So I think both things are a good option depending on your budget and what you want to do.
And then after your Raw Artists exhibition, now you have the opportunity to do more of them. Do you have plans to do another art show in the future?
I would really love to do one that's like in New York City or something like that. I haven't had the chance to do that yet because I mean, they don't pay your way there, so I'd have to pay for my way there, and I was doing some other traveling at the time, so it's not in the budget for me right now, but I would love to in the future. I did, however, attend another Pittsburgh show last spring, I think it was, because you can go back to Raw, you can attend Raw shows as a guest, I believe, sort of for life after you're in one. So I definitely went back to support some people that I knew that were in it and also connect with the new people and say, "Hey, I did this a couple months ago, how are you enjoying it?" So
Cool. Awesome. And then what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
I knew this question was coming and I thought about it all day and said I need to be prepared for this question. Hmm. I definitely think it's not being afraid to put a price on your work in conjunction with not being afraid to make new connections. I have had so many great experiences by just having a conversation with someone, especially at that art show. I had people just standing there looking at my work, and all it took was me to say, "Hi, how's your night going?" to start a conversation. And it turned into maybe we have a connection or a future opportunity to work together because people really do like to be engaged in conversation. It's funny because everyone's so engaged in their phones now and so standoffish that people do appreciate a face-to-face conversation, especially creative types. So I'm learning to never be afraid to have a conversation with someone because you never know what it will lead to. So I reach out as often as I can, and take pride in what I do, and I put a value on my work and say, this is who I am, this is where I am, and I'm ready to work with anybody who's interested. So
Awesome. And then what do you have planned for 2020? What's going on for your next year?
I got another wedding coming up. It'll be only my second wedding, so I'm getting into the wonderful world of wedding photography. So I think I'd like to expand my wedding photography portfolio and really get that into being something. And I don't know. I want to explore more. I love to travel, and I got the travel bug again. I took pictures in Ireland before. I took pictures in Hawaii just this past October. So I'd like to travel some more too. So big things, weddings and traveling. That's on my list.
Awesome. And if people want to find you on social media or if they potentially want to hire you for something, where can they go?
They sure can go on over to Blynncreative, and that's all one word. It's BLYNN and the word creative. And they can either be .com, that's my website, or on Instagram, that's my handle.
Awesome. Well, you did it. You did a podcast. How's it feel?
I sure it feels awesome, and I am very excited about it.
And that was another episode of Project Freelance. If you enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor and leave a rating, leave some feedback so that other people that are looking for podcasts to listen to might read your feedback and give this podcast a shot. Look, we're trying to grow here in 2020. That's the goal. Growth and happiness, guys. 2020 goals. So, yes, if you are new to the podcast, please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys next week on Project Freelance with another guest. Thank you guys for continuing to listen to this podcast. I'm having a great time doing it. I've always had a great time doing this, but we're going to keep it going in 2020. Let's go. All right, I'll talk to you next week. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out and go create something.